Good evening and welcome to the new Bentley Continental GT. Now GT, as I'm sure you know, stands for Grand Tourer. So I took it on a grand tour to God's waiting room, the English Riviera. Our actual destination, as you can see on the satellite navigation system here, is Budleigh Salterton. And that's because in the olden days, that's who'd have bought one. Hello, my name's Budleigh Salterton, and I've got a Bentley Continental GT.
Well, that's the old-fashioned image of Bentley, but today, things have changed.
There's no way the aristocracy is going to buy this car. I mean, these days they have to burn their children just to stay warm. And all their furniture's held together by the moths that ate it. All their houses are drafty and cold. Look, there's a classic Aristo house there. Look at that.
Because this costs £110,000, it's not a car for people who roast their children. I think it's more for people who like to roast their girlfriends, footballers, people called Gary and Wayne.
Presumably that's why this thing has a twin-turbocharged 6-litre W12 engine. Because you see, that way you'll be able to get from the shops to your drugs test in no time at all.
A colossal 550 brake horsepower gives a top speed of 198 miles an hour and 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. This, in other words, will outgun a Ferrari 575.
Normally, I will do anything to steer clear of the A303 because you always get stuck behind someone with enormous ears in a J-registered Rover 214, or of course, a caravan. But in this it's no problem because you simply ease the gear lever into S for Star Trek warp factor mode and then engage the turbos. Whoa! That is so fast. We only need the tiniest little gap. There it is. Can't tell you how quick this is. And yet, despite this ferocious power, and it is ferocious, there's no sense when you're in here that you're in a stripped out, hunkered down racer. It's quiet and it's comfortable, there's wood and there's leather. It's like doing 5,000 miles an hour in Douglas Bader's sponge bag.
It makes you proud to be English, even though the engine does come from Volkswagen and the floor and the gearbox and most of the fixtures and fittings. Still, because it also has a Volkswagen four-wheel drive system, this big old bruiser does have tenacious grip. Useful on the winding lanes of Devon. It's extraordinary for a car that weighs the same as a Range Rover. It really does feel live and alive. It even stops properly because it has the biggest brakes ever fitted to any car. And it's a handsome brute as well. Even though it was styled by a Belgian, it'll look good parked between the pillars of a footballer's Cheshire mansion. However, behind the 18th century veneer, the interior is less successful. First of all, there's this door. You have to be a meat machine to close it properly. That's got it. And then, if you are a meat machine, you'll find it just a little bit cramped in here, chiefly because of these armrests. They force you to drive along like you've got some kind of sports injury. And if you put them down, listen, driving along, how long before that would drive you up the wall? They are completely
pointless. Speaking of which, this button here allows you to adjust the hardness of the suspension, like so. Why do you need that? Why would you want to make your Bentley more uncomfortable? It really is as useful as a snooze button on a smoke alarm. But a slight sense of claustrophobia and the odd silly button are nothing compared to the Continental's biggest problem. It's Big Brother. The old four-door Renage is a symphony of pomp and circumstance, hope and glory, absolute power corrupting. Absolutely. Oh, it isn't very good, but there's such a sense of occasion when you drive it. This is the other way round. Brilliant, sensationally fast, handles beautifully, and it'll almost certainly be reliable. But it leaves you feeling just a little bit cold. It's a bit like Budley Salterton, actually. On the face of it, you'd like to live here. It sounds good, a small town on the coast of Devon. You'd like a piece of that action. But actually, there isn't any action. In a recent survey, Budley Salterton was named as Britain's most overpriced, dreary place. Everything is here, except the sparkle. And that is what the Bentley's missing. The sparkle. The X factor that turns a really good car, which it is, into a great one. Which it isn't.
It's a bit harsh, Jeremy.
No. Yes, you're right, it was harsh. But the thing is, it was cruel but fair, because when you drive the Phantom, which BMW made, they've captured the essence of Rolls-Royce with that car. When you drive this, it is brilliant, make no mistake, but it does feel like a big Volkswagen.
All right, but it isn't actually putting anybody off. And here's a problem. They can make 3,500 of these a year. That's all. They already have 3,500 orders for next year just from America.
I know. And the sort of people who've ordered these things aren't the kind of people who like to be kept waiting. Bentley were telling me the other night when I ran into a few of them at a party, and they were saying that they've had people phone up saying, if I don't have my car by Easter, you're not welcome in my restaurant, or you're not welcome in my football club. They even had one call up and say, if I don't have mine by Christmas, you're not welcome in my country.